Good morning, everybody. This is Mark Dempsey and Ann Healer here at the National Convergence Technology Center in Texas. Thank you for joining us for our CCN 101 webinar for the fall 2018. We send a lot of emails and documents to everyone about the CCN. We have stuff on our website about it, but we don't always have the time for a detailed discussion. So this webinar will do just that. It's going to provide a deep dive into all things CCN. That's the point. So everyone on this webinar is muted. So please use the WebEx chat box there. Christina and Debbie are here to watch that. If you have questions or comments, please use the chat box. We'll stop along the way to have a break for questions. And also for CCN attendance, you are getting points for this. Please make sure you send your name and school to us in the chat box. Okay? So here's the agenda. We're going to do the big picture, sort of the big overview of the CCN and what it does and where it came from. We'll talk about what the CCN offers you as member schools. We'll talk about your role in the CCN, responsibilities and expectations. We'll talk about the two levels. We'll have one last section for any lingering questions and answers. Okay, so that's the plan for today.
Okay, this is Ann Healer. I'm going to start with the big picture. And basically, the CCN came about as part of the National Convergence Technology Center funding, but it actually originated in our regional work, where we were mentoring colleges, and we had some of the colleges step up to the plate and become more than just takers of the mentoring. They were providing it as well. So we have history from 2012 that you can see on this slide for our funding to provide the CCN, and as long as we have funding, we're going to be providing travel reimbursement for those who are most active. Next slide. All right, again, it is the work of previous grants, actually previous to the National Convergence Technology Center, and actually work that I did back even before that. So we're based at Collin College in Frisco, Texas, just north of Dallas, for anybody who wonders, but our reach is national. Next slide. Originally, we were created as a regional center to address the downturn in IT enrollments and hopefully to address the future next new big thing. And at that point in time, the original definition of convergence, which, by the way, was not our term, that was our business representatives' terms. And it was originally the integration of voice, data, video, and image all over one network. And the killer application at the time was voice over IP. Now, we're still talking about convergence, though. It's the convergence of wireless, cloud, IoT, programming, data center, the hyper-converged data center. The term still applies. We're primarily focusing on this area, the wireless security, cloud virtualization, networking, storage management, and anything else that is associated, even including a little bit of scripting at this point in time. The vendors have changed a bit. Although, you know, I don't suppose we would say that anybody is left out in this list here, or if it's left out in the list, it's not intentional. We've got AWS for Amazon, Cisco, Dell, Juniper, Microsoft, NetApp, VMware, and a bigger and bigger focus on industries that have strong IT need, but are not necessarily IT businesses. Okay, so Grant Goal 4, as in our proposal, talks about dissemination. And we said that we would build on the community of practice that is the Convergence College Network to add more high schools and universities to the mix, because the amount of information that we're being asked to transmit to an entry-level employee, or what they expect an entry-level employee to know, has grown well beyond what we can do in our 60 semester hours. But anyway, I don't want to say that the other community colleges are not welcome. You are welcome, but we're also making a big, big push on expanding on the high school end and on the university end. Also, when our grant ends 4.5 or so years from now, we want to have some regional hubs built across the nation so that these regional hubs can continue the discussions. The community of practice is, in fact, an item that is defined in the literature as a group of people working together for mutual need. And I have certainly paraphrased that definition, but it is actually defined in the literature, the research literature. Our CCN is largely community colleges with a few universities at this point, but as I said, we would be adding in more high schools, more universities, while continuing to support professional development. Of course, we need to work with the businesses so that we know what is coming down the road for our students, what they expect to hire. However, we also need to make sure that faculty are well-versed in the new areas of IT, and about the only way to do that is to have professional development for them. Next.
Map. Map?
Yeah, the map. The map here shows all the colleges that we currently have involved in our network. I think it's 68 now. We just took a new one in, and they're in 25 states. So we pretty well go coast to coast, east to west, north to south. And the regional hubs will associate with the groups of colleges that we have across the nation. So I just said everything that's on this one, so I think we can move on. All right, so information flows from us. It flows to the CCN member school primes, who actually spread it to their network. And we primarily rely on the primes for each CCN college to distribute the information. We don't want to fill everybody's email box daily with the information that we send out. And then in the next slide, these are the staff members for the CTC. I'm the lead. Mark is our trustee assistant director, and you really hear from here more often than you hear from me. Christina Titus, program director. Debbie Miller keeps track of all the reporting, and Amy Garrison is our social media coordinator. Okay. We also have access to the Center's Collaborative for Technical Assistance. This was a supplemental grant that we received along the way. Christina is the director for that one. 4 NSF ATE centers have been working together. We're in our last year, this year, in creating webinars, holding convenings, etc., to provide technical assistance to those, originally was to those who had DOL TAC grants, but those are now over. And we're providing technical assistance to workforce programs in general and also to National Science Foundation ATE grantees. If you look at the link there, the link will show where you can find a lot of resources for what has already been done. All of the webinars are recorded. Transcripts are there. Slides are there. You can probably find a lot of very useful information there. Our focus has largely flipped over to helping people learn how to write National Science Foundation ATE grants that are competitive for this last year, but that's not necessarily totally required. So if there's something that you want to know about, we may have a way to do a webinar on it. For example, we're going to do one more webinar on what is impact anyway. We oftentimes think that outcomes are impact. For example, if you say I'm going to invite 100 people to a workshop and 100 people are invited, then you did your job. Well, not really. That's not the impact. The impact is what did those 100 people do with the information that they learned. And we'll talk a little bit more about that. Next slide. We also have digital platforms for the CTC that we use. Obviously, our website, we've had that a long, long time. Blogs, newsletters. Also, our website actually doesn't have Convergence Technology Center in it. It's www.connectedtech.org. And then hopefully you've been seeing some of our social media handled by Amy Garrison, our social media coordinator. Questions about the big picture? Okay, Mark, would you like to take it over?
Thank you. So next topic here is, what does the CCN offer you as a member institution? So there are 8 things here we'll talk about in detail, but here's a quick rundown. Free professional development, which is usually working connections events. Number 2, travel reimbursement help. 3, robust resource wiki. 4, a way to plug into a network of IT faculty across the country. 5, access to national built meeting content that we hold every quarter. 6, help maximizing your own local built relationship. 7 is virtual labs. And 8 is feedback from CTC leaders like Ann on grant proposals. Those are the 8 things that the CCN offers you. Those are the benefits. So to begin here with free professional development, Working Connections is our big event. It allows attendees to take a deep dive into a specific topic. We typically offer multiple concurrent tracks during those events, and attendees pick one topic they want to learn about. Since January 2012, there's been 20 Working Connections events, both here. Also, for a while, we were doing some up north in Michigan and Wisconsin, and also in Florida, plus some in the winter online. So 20 total since 2012. We cover over 60 topics and over 1,200 enrollments. And usually, this has been the case. When we do our longitudinal surveys, we find out that about 3/4 of attendees who enroll in Working Connections are picking a topic they are not already teaching, which shows that they're expanding the content and offering their students some new topics and skills. So Summer Working Connections, that's 5 days in July here in Frisco, Texas, in person. And Winter Working Connections is now online for 2.5 days in December. It's been online, I think, since this is the 4th year. So this year, winter is December 17th to 19th, 2018. It's always a Monday through a Wednesday afternoon. And then summer next year is July 8th to 12th, 2019. Working Connections is only open to IT faculty members. The goal is to teach that topic in your classroom in the next 2 semesters. So we really want someone who's working right now teaching IT. It's all about impact. So we want to be able to show right away that the topic you're learning, you're either creating a new course or you're adding content to an existing course from what you've learned. Tuition is free. You just have to pay away to get here, and we do offer some help with the travel, but the cost to attend as of now is free. As I mentioned also, longitudinal surveys, we send out every January. We go back to the previous 5 years to find out from you how you've used the track that you learned at Working Connections. Again, it's tracking at student impact. What's happening in the classroom with what you've learned. That's important for the NSF to hear from us about. Also, in addition to Working Connections, we provide webinars, 1-hour webinars online, like this one. Here's a list of some of the ones we've had in the past, going back to 2014. Those bottom 4 there, PC Clinic, BAIT, which is the UNT's Bachelor of Arts in IT, CAE2Y, and Competency-Based Education. Those 4 are actually on our YouTube channel. We converted them from the recording to MP4, so it's on our YouTube channel, so you can watch those 4 anytime. And we don't have one yet, a topic scheduled for the fall. So if you have an idea or suggestion about what you'd like to learn about, let us know. We're open to suggestions. And there's our YouTube channel there at the bottom, the URL. We also do professional development through our CCN meeting. We do an in-person meeting in the summer in conjunction with Working Connections here in Texas. So usually a Sunday or a Friday around that Working Connections event, we will get together for a meeting, and we'll do a special program as part of that agenda. So there's the last 5 we've done. Toothpick Factory was about soft skills and teamwork in a role-playing game. The Flipped Classroom was about getting introverted students involved and fostering discussion. We do some program sharing lightning rounds where each school gets 5 minutes to talk about something cool they're doing. We did a long workshop 2 years ago about competitive grant strategies to propose a grant for the NSF ATE program. And this past July, we did a workshop on team-based learning. So it's another avenue that we use to provide CCN members with professional development. We also have something called Leadership Academy. That's a track we offer at Working Connections in the summer. That's a deep dive in sort of best practices and topics that are sort of not just technical, but more about your program and your administration and your management of your programs. The 2 we always offer are those top 2 there, Build Strategies and the KSA process, and the DISC workshops. For those who don't know, you'll hear more about that later, but the Build is a cornerstone to all of our work. We want business and industry to co-lead your program, so we're always preaching that and talking about that. DISC is Dominance, Influence, Conscientiousness, Steadiness. It's sort of a personality evaluation to know yourself and learn how to work with others who maybe not like you to communicate better. So we do that every time with Leadership Academy. And then below are some topics we've done as well. We rotate the other topics aside from those top 2. We went dark this past summer, but we're probably going to offer it again in July 2019, Leadership Academy. Okay. Anything you want to add about that, Ann?
No, well, yes, why not?
Go ahead.
You asked me. We find that it's extremely important for faculty to understand how to work with administrators internally and also how to work with the BELT members externally. But it's extremely important to have strategies to work with department chairs, with associate deans, deans, vice presidents, et cetera. And that's one of the things that we really focus on, as well as knowing yourself. I know that I used to think that everybody in the world looked at the world like I do, and that's certainly not true. And I have a few tricks, if you will, or techniques to be able to work with people that are quite different. And hopefully, if you will take the time to take this week of training, you will learn a lot of that too. And actually, we've gotten nothing but rave reviews from the people that have attended it.
Definitely. Okay, so that's the first thing that we offer you is professional development. Number 2, travel reimbursement help. We do support travel for Working Connections events and some select IT educator conferences. This is really just for level 1 members, but here's a list of some of the places we've gone in conferences. High Tech is every summer, and they go to some great cities there. The way it usually works is you make your own arrangements, pay your own travel, and then you submit receipts to us for a reimbursement check. And those checks can take 4 to 6 weeks to get those back to you. And typically also we sort of give first dibs to those who have not attended in the past. We do it in stages. For those who haven't gone, they get the first chance. But it's a great opportunity for us to help you get some professional development. Number 3, the robust resource wiki. So we have this online repository of all kinds of documents and materials. There's a list there of some of the things we have. All of our CC meetings, we have minutes and presentation slides. All the build meetings we hold, our business leaders every quarter, that's on there. We have recruiting and retention tools. We have classroom resources, all kinds of stuff on there. Now, some wiki sections are password protected, but most are open to the public, so anyone can take a look at that. As a recent CCN survey, though, only 61% of those who answered knew what we meant. We said resource wiki. So it's definitely, I think, for now, still a hidden gem. So if you're not using this and checking it out, you're missing out. And I try to, once every semester, send sort of a digest, that we call it, sort of an update of the new things that are added to the wiki. So it can be overwhelming when there's just pages and pages and pages of material. So we do try and use that digest to let you know what's new. So you don't have to dig around forever trying to find things that are new. So that goes as an email to the primes. Another benefit is plugging into the network of IT faculty. If you're giving help, you're getting help. As you mentioned, we have 68 schools across 26 states. We're sharing best practices at the meetings, on the wiki. Anyone can add stuff to the wiki, not just us. We're networking with your peers in the CCN in person at events and conferences, at Working Connections. And also, there's a really cool thing that happens offline as well. If there's collaboration and troubleshooting, there's someone will ask a question to me, and I'll just send that question out in an email to the whole group, and invariably, 2 or 3 people at least will respond back with an answer or a solution or a resource. So it's a great way to plug into people from across the country who are doing the same thing you're doing and tackling the same problems you're tackling. Number 5, access to national built meeting content. So as I mentioned, all of our work stems from this concept of the BILT, the Business and Industry Leadership Team, where they are co-leading your program, co-leading your curriculum. An engaged BILT is the cornerstone of this whole thing. The whole point is to steer your program so your students are learning what the businesses want them to learn so they can get hired. This is not a passive advisory committee approach that meets for lunch once a year and sort of just nods their head when you say what you want to teach. It's really flipping that model so that the businesses tell you what they want, what skills they want the students to learn, and then you make sure that your curriculum is addressing that. Our BILT meets 4 times a year, and you're invited to every single meeting. There's 3 on the phone, on web only, and there's 1 in person. We do our job skills validation. It's a longer meeting in May, but even that one, we have a phone in the room so you can call in and listen to that meeting. We asked the CCN recently, do you feel like you understand the essentials of the BILT model? And 27% said maybe or not really. So even though we talk about this all the time, there's definitely still CCN members who aren't quite comfortable with all the material and how it all works. So, which brings us to this page. At the bottom there is a webinar. This past April, and a webinar just like this for an hour talking at length about the BILT model, how it works, why it works, how to do it. So if you haven't watched that, and if you're unfamiliar with the BILT model, you should definitely use that bit.ly and watch that webinar. It's very informative. As I mentioned there, all of you and your colleagues are invited to listen to our meetings every quarter. You can even submit topics or questions that we can pose to our national BILT. That's always an option for you as well. And also, most of the quarterly discussions, the 3 on the phone, include a trends discussion. So we give the BILT about half an hour to talk to us about what they're seeing on the horizon in terms of trends in IT. And if you miss the meeting, we record it. We'll share the recording with you. We also do very detailed, almost verbatim minutes of those BILT meetings, so you can read those as well. So these are all ways we want to make sure that all the content and the feedback that our built is giving to us, we share with you. That's very important. Another big piece of the built puzzle is our national job validations meeting that we do in May. So our national group each summer will revise that KSA list, and then we will send it out to you in September, so you can use it and have it handy for your fall business council meeting. That's the point. So you see there's a little flowchart there. You know, the built, they rank and vote the KSAs. Then you show it to your faculty and make sure that everything's being covered. And then you adjust your curriculum as needed. Then you report back to the built. That's sort of the 4 steps in the validation process. Okay. So here's just a quick snapshot of what the new revised KSA worksheet, we call it, looks like. These are knowledge areas, each line, not courses. You see the K numbers down the side there, and the name of the knowledge area, Linux or Windows Server or OS maintenance. In the middle column there, that's sort of more details and topics for each knowledge area. And then there on the right, you'll see the votes. Voting is very important. This worksheet is helpful because it gives you a very structured order to your job skills validation meeting. It's not just a rambling set of bullets from meeting minutes. It's a grid with numbers on it that's actionable, that your faculty can then use when they're looking and crosswalking what the built's asking for with what you're teaching. That's why it's so important. So I really urge people to use this sort of process because it really does help the meeting. It helps to make sure things are aligned with what the businesses are asking for. So you can see that there's the votes. 4 is that you have to have it. 1 is take it out. So you can see there for each line how many people voted for the 4 and how many voted for the 3. And then we average it. But again, if you watch that webinar that Ann did earlier this year, it goes into this in much more detail. This process. Number 6 is we want to help maximize your own local built relationship. So we're doing it at the national level. We want you to do it as well with your local business group. So we have some process documents that we can give to you. There's that webinar I mentioned. We're doing a very detailed built toolkit that should be ready very soon, along with some videos, hopefully. So all that together, along with that KSA list we're sending in September, that should be useful for you if you want to energize your built and make it more of a co-leadership sort of situation. And you can always ask us for further support. And in some cases, Ann may even be willing to help you with your first build meeting.
That is true. I actually have done that in several places. That is, however, not your first meeting if we're talking about build, because to drop in out of the sky and to do a KSA built meeting requires quite a bit of preparation before then to make it really effective.
Yeah, I was just going to say that as well. I mean, if you have sort of a passive, sort of traditional business group, there is a lot of work and planning has to go into sort of upgrading it to a more built-like model where they're more engaged and they're more of a leadership role. And sometimes there's some resistance from other faculty and administrators as well. So it does take some socializing to sort of upgrade it, but we can definitely help you with all of that.
And it's good for your students because they then graduate with skills that are highly employable, and that's what it's all about, in my opinion.
So number 7 is virtual labs. We have labs available through NDG. Collin College here hosts some, Georgia Southern University, Florida State College Jacksonville. Those are all available now, in fact. We only offer labs for A+, Net+, and Security Plus because those are simpler and they don't use as much space. But email us if you're interested. There are schools now using that in their classes. It was for level 1, but really there's so much not being used. If you're level 2, you want to try it, let us know. The point is you use our free resource to kind of get your feet wet and see how it works, with the hope of eventually being able to use your experience with us, with our labs, to convince your administration just to fund it directly from your school budget. That's the goal. And in some cases that's worked. There's at least a couple of schools who have tried it with us, and it was such a success. They loved it so much, the students loved it, that they got their administration to get a subscription directly.
And actually, one of them got their first set of NetLab, and they're getting another set.
Huh.
They're doubling their capacity.
And don't wait for me, because I do send an email out, like at the beginning of the semester, to see who's interested. But if you know you want it, let me know right away. We can get you settled and figured out how to help you. Okay. Number 8, feedback from CTC leaders on grant proposals. So Ann has written a lot of grants. She's very successful at it, and she wants to help you, but we just need lots of lead time to help you because you can't give us your stuff in September when it's due October the 1st and expect to have time to help you. So give us lots of lead time. There's a little schedule here, April, May, August, to tell you how to let us know of your intent, what we need to see, when we need to see it, so we can help you. We need to be notified in spring, really, for an October submission. So if you're interested in that, be thinking about that, look ahead to the calendar next year. Probably can help you support that.
And let's not say it's just the and show, because this group here is extremely good at acting as though they are a mock panel to do the review of a grant proposal. Things that don't make sense come out. It's really, really helpful to send it our way.
It's not just us either. I mean, we have many, many resources we can share with you, both with the CTC, the CCTA, NSF has resources. So if you're interested in applying for a grant, we can help, bottom line. Okay. So that's the 8 ways that we're benefiting you. Any questions about any of that? Okay. So Anne's going to talk a little about your role. What are your responsibilities and expectations in the CCN as a member?
Well, just like anything else, you get out of it what you put into it. Being involved in the CCN is going to be really meaningful to you if, in fact, you are heavily involved and interfacing with the people. That may or may not have been a sentence that made sense, but the idea is if you put more time into it, you're going to actually get more out of it. First of all, engage with the group. That's obviously what we were just talking about. Secondly, develop an active build. If your build is still meeting just once a year, that's really not enough for you to get the real benefit out of having a build. At least 2 times a year, and one should focus on the KSAs. And you can use our KSA grid or develop your own. Several colleges are using our grid and then adding and subtracting from it, which is just fine. You do need to have some kind of procedure to vote on the job skills, not just discuss them, because it's really easy to have a discussion and have the business people just, yeah, we like that. No, we don't like that. But if you vote, you get the actual prioritization of the various things that are on the list. And that's very important when you start trying to implement. And the other piece that you really absolutely have to do to make this really beneficial is whatever you do with whatever they ask you to do, you need to report back to them so that they know that they were heard and you can give them feedback. That does not mean that you have to play dead and anything they want they get, because as you well know, some of the things that they want either require specialized faculty, specialized equipment, more time in the curriculum than you can do. In other words, it has to be a dialogue with them to determine what fits, what doesn't, and how to do the best for the students. And again, we covered a lot of that in the Built Basics webinar that is cited there. Now, your role. Next slide. Yeah. Okay. The next slide. Attend our events and meetings. 4 CCN meetings, 4 Built meetings, 2 CCN admin meetings, webinars. Most importantly, working connections. We're still holding the summer working connections face-to-face, primarily because we want to have the chance for instructors to physically network with one another, talk to one another, develop bonds. And I think over the 17 or 18 years we've been doing working connections, there are some very deep bonds, and I don't think that in many cases that faculty would even consider a new program without consulting their friends that they've made over the years. Next one. Support the regional hubs. We mentioned, I think we mentioned that we're going to have regional hubs toward the end of this to try to take on the role that we've been doing, but on a more limited basis to continue the CCN. You can see the list of regional hubs there. They're in California, they're in Michigan, they're in Ohio, Georgia, Florida, a couple in Texas, and we're working to roll those out as we go. They'll have their own regional built, their own interfaces with the high schools and the universities and the community colleges in their region, and their own community of practice. Initially, these regional hubs will be sharing anything that we do online as professional development, and also their members will be able to be members of the CCN, the national CCN. Once we go away, then our plan is for these groups to be mature enough to pretty well take over in our absence. Next slide. We do require a yearly CCN report. Needless to say, National Science Foundation is giving us millions of dollars, and from those dollars, we're giving you dollars for reimbursement of your travel to get to training and for free training. They want to know, is it making a difference? We have 15 questions. It's really not a whole lot, but we do need to know what you're doing in these areas, how your recruitment's going, how your built meetings are going, any real impact from the CTC events. Then the yearly report on February 1st. Wait a minute.
Yeah, just another bullet about I think that.
Okay, I'm going, wait a minute, this isn't something
sorry.
else. All right, got it. It is mandatory to maintain a level 1 status. It's optional for level 2, but we appreciate it. And I will point out again, just like I did on Friday at our CCN Summit, that new members are coming in at a level 2 at this point, and they're having to earn their points to get to level 1. Okay? Next. Keep up with us on social media. Subscribe to or follow whatever our channels. We do a monthly newsletter. We do weekly blogs. Please do like us on Facebook. Follow us on Twitter. Subscribe to our YouTube channel and join our Built LinkedIn group. Those are all ways for you to communicate with each other and find out what other people in the network are doing. Next slide. Any questions about your role in the CCN?
Nothing.
All right.
Okay.
Okay, so then, this is Mark again, moving on to everyone's favorite topic, the levels and the points. Okay. So we need a way to classify CCN engagement. We had levels for a while, but it was sort of an arbitrary system. So because levels are tied to benefits, depending on which level you are on or in, depends on what kind of benefits you get, we made it more structured and organized. So as of October, as of this month, we have 28 schools at level 1. We have 36 schools at level 2. And we have 4 schools for provisional level 1. Those are schools that were level 1 but didn't quite make it this last time, but they promised to do better, and in return we give them sort of limited benefits. That's kind of just sort of like a middle ground there for schools. The difference between levels, really, level 1 schools get virtual lab access, although really level 2s get it as well if there's availability. Level 1 gets higher travel reimbursement cap, and level 1 can pre-register a week early for working connection events, which is a big deal because some of those tracks go up very, very fast. As Ann mentioned, everyone now joins a level 2 by default and to sort of demonstrate sustained engagement to qualify for level 1. Someone called this sort of a frequent flyer program, which I thought was very clever because really the more you put into it, the more you engage, the more benefits you get. So that's the whole point. Now, new high school universities, they're linked to Regional Hub. They may get in at close to level 1. I'm not sure yet. That hasn't really happened yet, but that's a possibility. But everyone else joins at level 2 that are new. This is just a quick sheet here of sort of the benefits between level 1 and level 2. As I mentioned, really the only difference, both those top 3 there, it's the virtual labs, the registering early for professional development events, and the sizable reimbursement cap. The cap is more for level 1. Otherwise, it's the same for level 1 and level 2, those benefits. So to maintain level 1 status, these are the things level 1 schools have to do. They have to score 24 points, which we'll discuss in a moment, hold 2 built meetings in a year, validate KSAs at one of those 2 meetings a year, those 2 built meetings, follow 4 built meeting guidelines, and turn a CCN yearly report February 1st. The 4 built meeting guidelines, number 1, we want you to incorporate our KSA worksheet with your business group. Ideally, you're actually using it and amending it with them, but that'd be ideal, but we definitely want you to use it somehow. We want you, number 2, to run your job skills KSA meeting in real time. Surveys and email gives you some numbers, but you're missing out on that in-person discussion in the room, which is so valuable, so we want you to have that. So we want that to be in-person in real time. Number 3, update your curriculum based on built feedback. That's important, obviously, because they're giving you recommendations. We will make sure you're doing that. You're making changes as needed. And number 4, as Ann mentioned, we want you to report back to the built what you've done and what you cannot do. Those are the 4 meeting guidelines that we require now of level 1 members. Incorporate a KSA worksheet, run your job skills meeting in real time, update curriculum based on the built feedback, and report back to the built what you've done or cannot do. So we get this question a lot. So what happens if level 1 school drops to level 2? Well, as I mentioned, there's no access to virtual labs, you get reduced travel cap, and you're not part of the early working connections registration. But level 2 can always move up. As I mentioned, there's a provisional plan. If you promise to deliver level 1 engagement within a set time frame, we'll give you limited benefits. But the best way, of course, is that next cycle, the next February 1st, you score 24 points and do all the deliverables for mandatory level 1. That's the best way to move up from level 2 to level 1. Score 24 points and do all those mandatories for level 1 schools. Okay. So how do you score 24 points? That's a big question. That's definitely one of the more unique things that we do. So here's sort of how that works. This is what we call the grid. There's 3 colors. At the top there, it's kind of a greenish gray. Those are the mandatory things for level 1 schools that we talked about. The blue portions there, those are the things that we track, all of our meetings and events. And the peach pink rows, those are the things that you're doing at your home school that we don't know about until we hear from you in February with that report. Let's kind of go through these one by one here. Mandatory level 1 elements. So there you see those check boxes. There's the 2 built meetings. There's the 1 built meeting has to have a KSA job skills element to it. There's the consideration to use our KSA update list. There is the requirement that you have your job skills meeting in person, in real time. There's the thing there about giving updates to your curriculum based on the built recommendations. There's the feedback element. Make sure you go back to the built, tell them what you could or could not do. And there's the CCN yearly status report. So those check boxes are the things you have to do to be level 1. That's from the very beginning, right out of the gate. You have to do those things. A couple of quick notes about that, though, we've learned along the way. The spirit of twice a year built really is we want that same group meeting twice. Some schools will convene 4 different builts in the fall on different topics, and that's not really what we're looking for. We're really looking for the same team meeting twice because we want you to have that multiple touches during the year with that same group and to hear from them more than once. So that's really what the point is. I think also we're going to be getting more and more strict with the KSA element, especially for older CCN members who've been around for a while. A short discussion that's like a third of a page in your meeting minutes doesn't really count as a KSA discussion. We really want you to dig deep and use the voting, get some metrics to validate the job skills in depth. That's really what we're looking for that. That's the mandatory stuff. So as I mentioned, there's 2 kinds of points then. There's the points that we tally, which is that blue section. I'm going to show you in a second. That's our events, our activities, our things that we do. And it's the points that we tally after we see your report, things that you're doing and we don't know what you're doing. That's the stuff at your home school. That was the peach pink section. We won't get a complete picture of all the points until February 1st we see your CCN report. Okay? So here's the blue section looks like, the things that we track. And let's walk through those briefly. CCN build meetings, we do 4 of those each, so 8 total. You get 1 point each when you attend the first 2, and after that you get 2 points each. So on your 3rd CCN meeting that you've attended, you get 2 points instead of just 1. CCN admin meetings, we do 2 of those a year. Those are really designed for your administrators, the person above the primary contact for us. The idea there is to get your administrators aware of what we're doing, help you sort of make the case that we're working on good things and to support you. So we give 3 points to you if the administrator attends. We used to give a point if you attended, but really the point is to get your administrators there. So we only give points if you get your boss to come. CCN webinars like this one, you get a point for that. So we did one in April for competency-based education. There's a point for that. If you attended today, you get a point for this one as well. Working Connections also gets you points. You get 3 for summer and 2 for winter. The CCN Summit we just did this past week, those who attended that, you get 4 points for that because that was really important for us to really get together in person and do a deep dive on the build and data and all that good stuff. Now, if you recruit a school that joins the CCN in alliance with one of our hubs, that's 5 points. Used to be we just give you points for anyone who joined, but really we're trying to focus on this renewal grant period on the hubs. So you really only get credit if you find a school that's going to be a part of those hubs. That's really important. You get 2 points if you submit a student success video. And for those who don't know what that is, I will send out an email with those directions. Basically, we're trying to do 1-minute videos from students across the CCN to sort of showcase how they got into IT, why they're successful, what they're doing with their future. This is something that our NVC had asked for, to really showcase the work, because it's all about the students. So let's show what they're doing and why they're learning and what they're doing and why it's also great. So you get 2 points for that. And there's very detailed directions on how to do that. It's very easy. We do all the work. We just get you to record the student and answer some questions, some canned questions.
And a question, what if I'm a college and I happen to have 2 outstanding students?
That's fine. Send them to us. We're looking for blog content. This is for our blog. So at this point, we're still hungry for blogs. I guess if you send 2, we'll give you 4 points. I mean, that's fine.
Sure.
I'm okay with that. The last line there is a blog post. That's 1 point. So you can always write a blog if you want to, but I know you guys are very, very busy. You don't have time for that. So what we've started is the CCN Faculty Focus. So Amy Garrison, our social web coordinator, she has some questions. She can send you an email, you reply in an email, or you schedule a phone call with her. That's even easier. You can do a phone call with her, answer the questions verbally, and she will then turn that into a blog post. That's one point. Okay, so it's all the different ways that things that we do provide points. So next here, this sort of peachy pink section, those are the things that you're doing. Again, these are things that we don't know about until we see your report, internal things at your school. Things like holding more than 2 build meetings in a year, inviting your faculty to the build, discussing trends of the build meetings, using our KSA spreadsheet. Maybe you're updating your degree or certificate based on what the build's telling you. Or you have a recruitment plan you're doing. Or you're attending or presenting at IT conferences, or you're hosting local recruitment events. Those are things that you're doing that we don't know about until we hear from you. So that's part of that February 1st CCN report. And once we get that, we add those numbers in and tally it all up. Okay? So as far as the time period, we are now counting activities in the calendar year, January 1st to December 31st. So this coming February 1st, when you turn in your report, we are looking at January 1st to December 31st, 2018, this current year. So that February report is looking back to this year. Okay? So one question I always get is, how do I get enough points to level 1? How do I get 24 points? Well, the easy answer is attend the meetings. If you got all 4 CCN and all 4 build meetings, you've already got 12 points right there. You're halfway home. That's very important. I want to also emphasize that it doesn't have to be just one person doing all the work. These points are tallied based on the school, not the person. So you should definitely get your colleagues involved. If you can't make a CCN meeting, recruit the guy down the hall and get him to go for you so you get those points. Because it's all about the school's progress and what the school is getting out of this, not just one person. Okay? Any questions about that? That's the last I have on the points. That's always a complicated thing to explain. Any questions about that, how that works?
Mark, when do you send out report cards to tell them where they're standing?
Okay, so report cards. That's I sent that out, I think, in August. That's sort of an interim sort of snapshot look at where you are, because I don't want anybody to be surprised when it's January 30th and you realize, oh my gosh, I don't have enough points. There's no time to make it up. So I do try to send those out in the middle of the year, like in, I don't know, August I think I did it. So you can see that if you see like you're really deficient in points, and sometimes I'll even tell you in the email, I think you're deficient in points, you have a chance in the fall to make it up. So and you can always ask me too, if you're not sure about where you stand with the points and you're worried, you're trying to make level 1 again, let me know and I can look for you. And if you didn't get that report card, or if your prime guy didn't share it with you, let me know and I can send it to you as well. Okay? It's not a secret, so I can definitely help.
Okay, another question. If 2 people from the same school attend, do they both get points, or is it just per call?
No, unfortunately, it's really just, yeah. Except for the thing we mentioned at the end there with the student videos. It's really one-time counts. Yeah. That's it. Other questions? If anything else comes up, always email me, okay? I can help you with those questions. All right, so now we're moving on to the wrapping up part.
So we covered what CCN offers you, how you engage, how you get credit so that you get the most reimbursement. We want to entertain any questions that you might have. We believe that since we've had the CCN going, that a lot more has been going on nationally than before it. And we're very, very pleased to work with all of you. What questions do we have?
Anybody else?
Yes, we have a question from Ray. He said, Ann stated last week that one of the colleagues might have data analytics KSAs, and are those available?
They're not exactly KSAs. I have a data analytics DACM. I can get that for you, Ray.
Someone else asked if this will be available. Yes, so we will put the slides up that we just did today. I'm also put the recording up. We can turn this into a YouTube clip so people can watch the video of it as well and hear the audio. So we'll do that for sure. And for those who are maybe watching this who aren't a CCN member, because we're going to put this on YouTube, you can always email us for an application or go to our website. So any questions? Please do the survey. It's right there. I will send a link to you as well before you hang up here. And then there's some resources. So their email, my email is there, Ann's email is there. There's 2 bullets there at the top for some built resources. There's the 1-hour webinar again. We have a PDF brochure we're using now. There's the bit.ly for that. And we have a nice brochure, like a 12-page brochure about the CCC, all of our goals, what we're doing. That brochure PDF is available there. And then you can find some things from CCTA. There's some worksheets, that URL. The webinar recordings by year is available at that other link there. That, for example, is the 2017 webinars, but there's other years as well available. Okay, so just real quick here, let me just type this in if I could, the link. Any other questions anyone has?
Are you where you need to be?
Yeah.
Okay.
I'm just going to type this in real quick so you can just very easily. So in the chat box, I just put the survey link, so take the survey. If any other questions or comments, I think we're good.
Thank you, and we really enjoy working with you and for the good of the students nationally. You are doing fabulous work, and we look forward to working with you in the future.
All right.
Thank you.
Thank you, everyone. Thank you for your time.
Thank you.